Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's Timeshares Solution or Surrender with Irene Parker, where we are trying to resolve one of the problems in this industry, and that is addressing some of the deceptive actions that have been occurring because not every timeshare has been causing a problem. There are millions and billions of dollars every year sold, but sometimes you get some people that are so unhappy that they can't even enjoy what should be a vacation. So everyone, I want you to help me welcome Irene Parker, who has been taking on the challenge. Hello, Irene, of helping some of these people resolve their problems just by finding some solutions. Irene, tell us a little bit about what we're doing here today.
Well, I co-founded Timeshare and Resort Developer Accountability, Inc. With 4 or 5 of people who have resolved their timeshare dispute without retaining a third party. And first of all, I want to thank everyone that viewed, commented, responded since our last 2 shows. And over the past week, we've had 2 people respond that they were able to resolve their dispute. And in addition to that, my good friend Ron Roberts from Legacy Solutions International sent me 4 testimonials from 4 people who had sold their timeshare without paying any money up front, without having to pay a listing fee. So we were really happy to hear that. And we had 2 people that followed our process. I mentioned last week that I received a call from an unknown caller that turned out to be an assistant to an executive at Wyndham. And this person owned a deeded week, which you may or may not be eligible for Wyndham's certified exit. And he had paid an exit company $6,500. So we went round and round and round, me explaining no resort is going to allow you out if you've retained a third party. Well, why not? They didn't do anything. So I got him on the phone with Wyndham and they helped me convince him. And we had to go back to the exit company and get a refund of $6,500, and it was even more difficult to get them to put in writing that they had terminated the relationship. But the executive's assistant called and said, tell him we have escalated this and we will be calling him tomorrow. And they did, so he was really happy. The second person that reported that they had a positive outcome, I've invited to be on a guest today on our show. His name is Frank, and there are 2 things we mentioned last week. One was about koala, and one was about the recorded closing. So if we could go ahead and invite Frank to join us. Hello, Frank. So Koala is a rental platform. You have to check with your resort to make sure renting is allowed. Blue Green has been suspending many accounts accused of commercial activity, but it's a legitimate company. But sometimes people that are not so on the up and up will take advantage of that. The other thing was I talked about the recorded closing, which started in 2017 when Diamond Resorts was issued an assurance of discontinuance that I warned would be used as an entrapment. And so, Frank, if you could just take a few minutes and let us know, we're happy you followed our process. And you're also an Air Force veteran of 23 years. So thank you for your service. And you can maybe fill us in a little bit on what that was like as well.
Well, it was it was a pleasure to serve. Kimberly and I were talking earlier that it's a great way to get to see the world, and I got to see quite a bit, and so it affords me to, as my mother would say, every day Saturday for me now. So it was a good experience, and yeah, so it was good to move on and do a few other things when I got out. Had a couple of careers, but I just want to thank both of you for letting me share my story this morning. I want to kind of mention what Kimberly said, that all timeshares programs aren't bad. Timeshare has been in my family for over 40 years. My mother bought one of the first timeshares in this area of country I'm in on the East Coast over 40 years ago. I enjoyed it. My whole family enjoyed it. And then my mother, but one of the big benefits, and why I purchased into it, was that you can pass it on to your family members. So spent a lot of time there. She ended up giving me her week. And then during the housing crash, I picked up 3 more weeks at a pretty good price. And so it was part of my plan that when I did retire, now this was at one location, and I do want to mention something about people that came in as my mother did. I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't converted to the point system, that with your 1 week, you go to one place, and I like this place so much. I really enjoy going there. However, the point system was attractive to me because when I retired, I wanted to see more of the country, and it included going overseas. So it was very attractive to me. However, I ended up just recently finding out the resort that my mother originally bought into was so old it was condemned. And then those people that had invested, a lot of friends of my mother that wanted to pass on to their kids, but they didn't want to pay the high maintenance fee, you're then forced to go to a point system. And so it doesn't always work out that if you buy into one resort, that resort may just shut down without renovations. So to make my story, my short story longer, or my long story longer, I ended up retiring about 4.5 years ago, and I looked into the point system, and it looked very good for me. I converted the 4 weeks I had to points, and I will say the first sales meeting went very well, and I enjoyed it for about 10 months, and went back in to do, to check in, make sure everything was good. And so I was given the opportunity to buy more in and get more points. Well, I was attracted to this sales pitch this time because I thought the maintenance fees, my kids aren't going to be interested in the maintenance fees as they continue to go up. So I was offered, basically I had 500,000 points. If I went up to 1,000,000 points, half of my points, 500,000 points, would be worth $5,000. And so that made sense to me. I can defer the cost. My kids won't have to endure that. I won't have to pay the maintenance fee that I was paid at that time, almost close to $500. And so my fees would only be approximately $50 a month, which I was cool with. And I only needed really 5. I was still going on vacation 6, 7 weeks a year, which was more enough than me. Well, unfortunately, I found out again. I did this in October. The new system wouldn't come into play until the new year in January, and by the time that played out, well, the rules had been changed, and I was not given what I was promised. And unfortunately, I didn't know about Irene and Tarda and the avenues to, resolve this issue. 3 months had gone by, it was done. So fast forward a couple of years.
If we could just clarify a few things. So you mentioned that you would have fewer maintenance fees. You had mentioned when we talked before koala, that they were somehow using that company as a means that they would pay you for your points, and that would cover what, both your maintenance fees and still be able to travel.
Okay, so that I was getting ready to lead in this. The
Okay,
next
so
time I saw my vacation club, it was on a cruise with my mother this past October. The previous meeting, so this is the second time I've
okay.
upgraded my points. So I get take my mom on a cruise. We have a wonderful time. I do this little sit down deal because I got somewhat of a discount on my cruise. Had a wonderful time. So I knew almost every person at the place where I vacation a lot and where the headquarters is of my vacation club. So they all know Frank when he walks in, because Frank hasn't been that happy over the last couple of years. So we go in there. I see a new guy, and I'm presented by this guy. Say, look, we were just brought in. We were a smaller vacation club, and that we have a new program you can convert to. And so he presents to me. I said, look, I told him my story. I don't like my high maintenance fees. I've been deceived once. I need to make sure that what you're promising me, and what he did promise me, was this new company called Koala that worked with their company. And my 100,000 point purchase at the cost of $24,000 would then give me the right to cash in my 1.1 million points for a total of $22,000 a year. I wanted to still use the program. I just wanted to defer my maintenance fees. We talked for over 2 hours. He promised me. And I mean, I looked the man in the eye, and I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character, but obviously I wasn't. And I would say to people, trust your gut. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And in this case, again, I did this in November. The new program wouldn't go on in effect till January. I called Koala, and Koala does not have a relationship with my vacation. They do defer costs, but they take a hefty percentage. It's still a good program for people maybe wanting to use that. But yeah, it was not any arrangement, and so I was deceived again. And fast forward, I was so fed up, I was ready to pay $5,000 to exit. And fortunately, I was very fortunate. The girl I was dating at the time, right now, found Tarta, and Irene got engaged with me quickly, helped me form a letter, beautifully written. I really didn't think anything would come of it. It was sent out. I did stop payment. I mean, I had already paid this off in full on my credit card, but I did call my credit card company. I was within the 90-day window, which might have helped me. And I emailed it to the corporation, and believe it or not, it shocked me. And
Well, they probably just didn't say, "Oh, we're sorry. Where do we send the check?"
No, they
Did they
did
give
not.
you?
So they did contact me, and they had a resolution team, which I thought was ironic because they're not too much about resolution. But he did call me. I did. They set up a meeting. It took about 3 weeks for that to happen, and I met with 4 of their people. Of course, it was recorded, and I'm glad it was recorded. And we had a conversation. And to your point, Irene, they bring up, you were recorded, and I said, yeah, I know I was recorded. And so they said, well, you didn't have any questions, at closing. See, originally I thought they were talking about recording the whole thing, and that's not the case. So again, anyone that's listening, I would just say this, if I could give you any guidance from my experience. Anything your salesman promises you that is very important to you, and in this case, the only reason I bought that 100,000 points was to defer my maintenance costs. All I would have had to say was, just want to make sure I'm going to get 2 cents per point as long as I cash it in the first 3 months of each year, and I can take that cash and do whatever I want with it. If I would have said that, everything would have ended. But again, they asked me a couple of times, well, you didn't have any questions. And as Kimberly, you had mentioned earlier, and I said to the woman and this other guy a couple of times, why am I telling you over and over again? Well, I didn't have any questions. That's why I spent over 2 hours with your sales rep, telling him the only reason. So I said, I find it odd that, first of all, the salesman isn't here that deceived me. And then you don't record what goes on in the sales meeting. And you're talking about that I'm a valued customer and you're trying to protect me. So I was even further shocked that within 24 hours they responded, and we want to repay you the 24,000, and I will retain the points I have. I still think it can be really good, and I do enjoy the travel. However, with the escalating maintenance fees, if I'm real honest, unless I put away some money and pay the maintenance fees off for about 5 years, my kids aren't going to be interested in this. So thank you for letting me share my story. I really thought I ran 2 businesses at one time. I really thought I was pretty smart with money and reading people. I'm very fortunate. This was very difficult on my family, much less me. And I was all but ready to go back to work because I overextended myself. So,
well, and you need to go to Pod TV Bookstore and order Doug Shadell's book. He's an AARP staff writer, outsmarting the scam artists. That no one is smart enough to outsmart a scam artist. But 2 things you mentioned. One of them was they told me this program would start after the first of the year. Best way to dodge the state mandatory rescission period to cancel a contract. And the other thing, when they take you into a room, you're sitting there with the money people looking at a contract. Hopefully they're showing you the contract, and you're not talking about the product. So, and sometimes we've had reports, the sales agent said, now the people you're going to sign with, they really don't understand the product. And as I was sharing with both of you before we went on camera, a former sales agent said, and we have 46 pages to go through, and we can go through those pages in 18 minutes if they don't ask questions. So I really thank you, Frank, for being on the air today. And Kimberly, do you have anything to add about this situation?
First, I know. Blah, 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 blah. First off, Frank, you are very smart, but you have integrity. And I find that a lot of people who have integrity and are honest in their business practices, they just have a tendency of walking in the door and thinking, other people will too. You're dealing with companies that write off of logos, and it makes them look more reputable. So in some cases you see the Hilton logo. And so you're just going along with that as well. But, you said something that I am going to ask people do as well, because I love your call to action for people. And I want you all, if you go into any meeting, take your own tape recorder. And I think I've just decided how I want to change the laws, Irene. Any sales pitch that is made for a closing has to be recorded, and that sales pitch is text into a contract. So whatever was said in the sales pitch will now be text and typed into, because AI can do this, typed into that contract or recorded and put into the contract. So whatever was told in a 2 to 3 hour sales pitch is now in writing. And see, they get away with this with that one little loophole that whatever was said is um, not considered in what's in writing, and that should be wrong because the sales was made based on what was said, and so that needs to change. All of that needs to change, and for the amount of people who seem to be okay with their timeshares, there's way too many people who are getting scammed. So maybe it's more of the agents or the agency that is doing the sales. But I think the laws need to be changed to protect the people this way because, and don't go into a meeting without a recorder. I made that mistake myself. It's your word against theirs. You know what? I don't care if that state has a law saying you can use the recording or not. That's for court. And let me tell you what, that recording can go viral really fast if you use it against them that way. And this is the way I want to start dealing with people like this is fight back using their own mechanisms against them. Just like they said, well, we're just going to record the closing. What?
Well, that's a great idea. Unfortunately, it will never happen. It's been discussed, but they will say, well, there's a bunch of people in the room at all these different tables, so we can't record with that many people there.
So they can and they can't. We only had one person, and then near the end, they started bringing in like 20 people came in. I don't know. I was intoxicated. So try doing that for 4 hours when you're intoxicated from a 5 a.m. flight, drinking all morning. And then they get you in there and you tell them you're intoxicated and they just go longer and longer and longer. So I get it. But yeah, you can take your own recorder in. Then just take your own recorder in and then you hold their toes to what they told you. And yeah, you signed a piece of document in 15 minutes flat based off of a sales for 3 hours. I have a problem with that. I really do. I think the integrity has lost. But something else you need to know, and I mentioned this in the last show, is the laws that pertain to real estate sales, timeshares are exempted from. And my sister had recently taken a course and she called me about this. And she said, you won't believe it. Now, she's not in real estate, she's in mortgage. But it's infuriated her what they're able to get away with. But she had to take, and she said every single thing they would go. Now, real estate agents have to adhere to this, but timeshare agents are exempted. And she goes, what's up with this? So I think what needs to happen, Frank, if people like you are willing to, is we need to get together and go to Washington and have a little chat with some people, and put their toes to the fire to make this right. But Irene, you're amazing. She composes a letter, and immediately people start to shake. Even
and I don't compose the letter. I don't compose a letter. Sometimes I have to extract the letter. And we had the person, we had Sherida talk about how they played upon her Catholic faith, and you were on the phone with me with a wonderful young lady that they played upon her Muslim faith. And you heard her there's no way. I had to extract the letter. I don't write the letter. I extract the letter from them. And it starts out, maybe 10 sentences as I'm talking to people. But our next guest, very few people do I say. Some people, when I say, okay, can you write down what happened and email it to me? I will never hear from them again. My husband, one of them, he has a PhD in biochemistry. He thinks at the molecular level. So some people, but our next guest wrote a very eloquent report, and I read this report, which I will preface when we introduce Alan, and in the middle of it, my eyes went bugged out. So it'll be interesting to share this with our viewers after our break.
Well, thank you, Frank, for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you again and having you join us on the show. And, maybe there'll be more outcomes as we move forward and get you to join our team. Have a beautiful, blessed weekend. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I appreciate you having me on your show.
All right, Irene. Wow, I get goosebumps every time I hear some of these stories. And again, I have to say, it's not every timeshare is like this. Like your experiences are beautiful, but there are some out there that are very deceptive. And it's great that you're able to kind of bring these stories in so that we can learn from this and learn what to do and what not to do. I mean, it's just I get aggravated, and you're sitting here going, "We got this." I'm sitting here, my hair is standing up. I guess eventually I'll calm down a little bit, but right now we're going to have to take a break, and we're going to bring on our next guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pod TV's Timeshares, Solution or Surrender with Irene Parker, where we are trying to find better outcomes to some of the deceptive acts that have been occurring in timeshares in the recent years. And so, everyone, join me with Irene Parker from TARDA, who has been taking on the big challenge of helping these lost souls find their way back to happiness. How are you doing, Irene?
This is good. And in 2015, I was a lost timeshare soul. And as we said before the break, very few people will write up what happened. They'll call, they'll go to the internet. And you've heard people we've talked to, Kimberly, where they don't even know what they purchased. Yeah. And so I received this private message on Facebook, and I'm going to read this in advance of us inviting Alan on. It's not very long, and I think it's really worth telling. So Irene Parker, I have followed your Hilton Vacations advocacy page on Facebook for some time. I need help. I don't know where to go. We went to Branson in November of 2023 as a last trip to use our diamond points. The maintenance fees are now $13,500 a year. At a kiosk, they said, you need to go talk to Lifetime Destinations in Branson. They have someone that can help you. So they went to an office of Lifetime Destinations. It turned out to be Nantucket, Branson's Nantucket Resort. And the sales agent said, and this is where my eyes bugged out, he was employed, he's not employed by Lifetime Destinations. He's employed by an organization funded by the voluntary fee on our yearly maintenance fees. That would be the timeshare industry, ARDA. And ARDA is very supportive of developers that are suing all of these exit companies and even some law firms. He talked to us about our diamond membership. He left, and when he returned, he had a printed sheet with all of our information on it, all of our travel history, the exact number of points. He looked down and said, I can see that you have an easy case. Reed said, because we were lied to by the diamond sales agent, and that I and only I have the authority to cancel your Diamond Hilton contracts. He urged us to use this chance to get out. He proposed that we could take our diamond equity, of which there's none, and exchange that for Lifetime Destinations at a reduced rate. I didn't feel right about it, so I refused to sign. I feel so badly that they sold my wife, but they could have sold her a deed to a pup tent pitched in a hog lot, manure and all. She was so desperate to get out of those maintenance fees. At the closing, the lady said that she got to the line that verified we had been shown the property and it met our expectations. I piped up and said, we have no idea what we just bought. We haven't been showed any property. The look she gave him was priceless. So this was prompted, and they spent $32,000 transferred to credit cards because in 2022, according to Alan, at a diamond presentation, they were told that if they did not upgrade to the new Hilton Max program, their maintenance fees were going to skyrocket. Mother Teresa was asked one time, who causes the problems of the world? She said, I do. So with that, if we can bring Alan in and he can go over the ins and outs and what he would have done different and how things are proceeding right now. Welcome.
So one thing I want to point out here, and I know Alan will get into this as well, is this is predator cells, if you ask me. Like, they're preying on people who they know have issues with this, and I've received a lot of those phone calls, but I want to know how they get our number. But Alan, I want you to tell your story so that we can get into this.
Can you hear me? Am I not?
I can.
Okay.
Houston, we have contact.
Where do you want me to start?
Begin at the beginning. You probably were at a kiosk and got pulled in off the street.
Well, we were at that restaurant close to Jefferson City where they throw the rolls. It's famous for that.
Okay.
And they have a kiosk as you're going out that promotes the Branson shows. And he called us over and asked if we'd ever been to Branson. I said, yeah, we've been to Branson several times and we're on our way back now for the last time. And he wanted to know more about that story, and found out that we were involved with Diamond and that our maintenance fees were too high. And he says, I have somebody that can help you with that. And that's how we got hooked up with the Irishman.
Appropriate for St. Patrick's Week.
Happy St. Patrick's Day there. All right.
Anyway,
so there was no gold at the end of this rainbow, though, was there?
No.
No.
We stepped out of one pothole into another one.
Not a pot of gold, a pothole.
A pothole.
We want to make that clear.
When we went to the presentation, we walked in there, or he walks in, and we're sitting at the desk waiting, and he says, first of all, I want to make it clear that I do not work for Lifetime Destinations. They let me use this office. They let me use their copy machines and all the other equipment, and they let me use their help. But I do not work for Lifetime Destinations. And he says, I work for a company funded by ARDA. Because there's been all the complaints about all the deceptive timeshares, that he helps resolve that. And he gave us a spiel that he says, I and only I can get you out of Diamond. And then it went on to say that he could not only get us out of Diamond, but he could recoup some of our inventory at a rate of approximately 2 for 1. We did, for two Diamond points, we'd get one Lifetime Destination point, and those points would go toward the down payment of Lifetime Destinations. Well, when it come time to do the paperwork, somehow, some way, I don't know how they did it, but they fooled us. But they had it set up that we would finance the balance of it on a credit card, and that was with the one where you, what is the company that trades the destination, the points?
RCI.
I see. No, it was Interval, I think. I don't
Interval
know.
International. Okay.
Yeah, but he the credit card is through them that he got us. And
Well, and this was in November of 2023.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yes, it
Okay.
was 2023.
Okay. So your wife was desperate to get out of $13,500 in maintenance fee, which would have been due January 1, 2024.
Yes.
Okay. So
He assured us that he said it was going to be tight, but I can probably make this happen. So, well,
okay.
For a fee,
January.
right? For a fee. It didn't come out of the $7 or whatever you pay to ARDA. They charge you for this. Am I right?
He didn't charge me anything other than the fact that he charged our credit card for the whole down payment that he said came from our diamond points.
So,
Right.
but the purchase price for the Nantucket timeshare was $32,000.
Yes, but 14 or some $1,000 or something like that was supposed to come from the points trade-in.
And he didn't do it, did he? He charged
No,
your
he
credit
didn't.
card.
He charged the credit card for it, so we're on the hook for the whole 30,000, not the 16,000 that he said before. We have I don't remember how much, 16,000 I think charged to our bank credit card.
How did he charge your credit card the down payment without you knowing about it?
I don't know how he did that. It was in that sleight of hand.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know. So did you dispute the charge?
No, well, it went on too long. She still believed him until we started getting more letters from Diamond, and they didn't know anything about the cancellation. But all he did was turn it over to an exit company, and it hidden in the paperwork was that for the exit company was that we were going to pay the Diamond fees for another year. Well, we defaulted on the Diamond fees, so now the exit company didn't do anything.
Well, and it wasn't really an exit company; it was a listing company.
Well,
an exit company will, the legitimate ones anyway, will do the same thing, help you compose a letter, tell you to file with the Better Business Bureau. A listing company just takes your money. They get paid up front from the listing, and there is an organization across the country of licensed timeshare brokers that will not charge you anything up front to list. So there is no reason. A lot of times when people list, it's at an exaggerated price. But here you're already late on the $13,500 in maintenance fees, and that invalidated the contract.
Yes, and I think she did money on that. But I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that because I was convinced by then that it was totally bogus, and I was going to try to get her to rescind. Well, she thought that they were right and I was wrong. And
that's probably the first wife that ever thought she was right and her husband was wrong. So your wife was devastated, and she fortunately has a daughter who's very bright and very knowledgeable, and she sent a letter to Nantucket. And has Daniel joined us backstage?
Yeah, do we want to bring Daniel in?
Yeah, let's bring Daniel in.
Let's talk a little bit about why we're bringing Daniel in.
Hey, Daniel, thank you. And so I have this.
Oh, wait, unmute. You have to unmute, Daniel. Unmute you. There's a box. Daniel, unmute. You're on mute, and I can't unmute you.
We can't.
So it's on the screen. You should see a button that says unmute. Oop. All right. All right, let's continue. So maybe you can
call him?
Yeah, he needs to hit the button to unmute. But let's talk a little bit about this because they lead you in a lot of times while you're on vacation. I've sat in on some of the exit companies pitches. They'll keep you again for an hour or so, and they have a contract there this is what bothered me. They had a contract there, and they said, "Okay, give us your credit card, and we'll get this taken care of." And I go, "Well, can I take the contract home and read it, and then give you the credit card?" "Oh, no, you can't take the contract home because we have to compose it here." And I go, "Well, you have it. You say you have it." And you want the credit card for you to give it to me. Why don't you just give it to me and then let me read it? "Oh, no, we can't let you read it before you pay us." And they wanted $16,000 before they would even let me read the contract. I had to pay them $16,000, which I think is a scam to begin with. I mean, why do you take money? And I got on recording. Every bit of it I got on recording. And I will be turning them in. I got their names and phone numbers. Of course, they changed them, like you said. It probably goes to a pizza place or something.
I think Daniel, he's got the unmute button now. If he's still there.
Okay, hi. Yep, he is. Let's bring Daniel in. Welcome, Daniel. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, great. We can hear you. And I have way too many names and places stored in my head. And as soon as I heard Nantucket, I remembered of two people that had reached out about Nantucket in 2019. Two of the four sales agents that I know their names, all four have criminal histories. We have people who have worked as a detective, worked in criminal investigations, and there are volunteers that do criminal background checks. And so one of the agents was, in his history, was stealing motor fuel in a DWI. The other was working for Diamond Resorts when he was working for an exit company. He was charged with theft and robbery and pled guilty, and there was a weapons charge. There's a disbarred attorney we have on a recording if we have time. Kimberly will play a snippet about the promise of eliminated maintenance fees. So Daniel, yours was also, as we talked about last week with Sherida, promise that you could rent to make money. So, and I really promote members helping members, members supporting members, so that it's reassuring to Alan to hear from Daniel. I wasn't able to have time to reach out to the other person that his sales agent was a person of interest in distributing counterfeit coins in Oklahoma, where Daniel is calling from. So Daniel, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your experience. Oh, is he muted? He's muted again.
So he might have muted himself. I know I didn't mute him. There we go. He's not muted. He just he is. Okay, there we go. Okay. Go ahead, Daniel.
No, yeah, it's not.
Something's not working.
Oh, okay. Oh, well.
We have Mark in the background, so maybe Mark can reach out and help him when he logs in again and help us get this going. Meanwhile, maybe you can tell some of his story until he gets back. Oh, there he is. Let's get him back in before he fades out.
Okay.
Daniel.
Hello,
All right. Hello, Houston. We have contact.
We can hear you.
All right. Okay, so I bought my timeshare back in 2015, and then 6 months later, I go to make a reservation, and come to find out I didn't have enough points. So they offered me a free stay to one of those seller update meetings. So it's just a tactic to upsell me more points. And when I went in there and got with my sales rep, this other gentleman comes in there with a set of blueprints and was telling me how lucky I am that my timeshare is zone rental. So basically what's going to happen is they're going to rent my timeshare property out to other prospectus owners, and I would get anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 every year. I haven't received a dime from them, and that was supposed to wash out the cost. And I even during closing, they went over the fees and the price extra I was going to pay. And I even said, so this is all I'm going to pay. Well, Nantucket took out a $5,000 credit, and I thought that's all I was going to pay. And see, I already owed $8,000 from when I first got my timeshare. Then they opened up another line of credit through RCI, so that's 16,000 plus another 5,000 on top of that. So they charged me all this extra money, and what didn't really disclose all of this until I got a surprise in the mail of another line of credit. And I even said in the recorded, hey, this is all I got to pay right here, this $5,000 that I carried. The note was with Nantucket. They carried the note on the remainder. So I've been trying to get out of this thing. I've went through lots of different exit companies and a lot of relisting companies, and they just took my money. I think I've spent more on exit companies than I have the entire timeshare.
Well, and Nantucket has a Better Business Bureau. There's a warning posted about Nantucket: failure to cancel contracts, failure to issue refunds, misleading sales, and poor customer service. So I knew from Daniel, and I introduced you to Ray, who was going through at the same time you did in 2019. We're 2024 and you're still not quite out of the situation?
Yeah, I'm not. I went through that Finn law firm that you referred me to, and they said there was a conflict of interest, and so they referred me to another law firm, David Akers, and everything was all good. And then the paralegal ended up quitting, and the only thing that was left was to sign and notarize this one document and send it back. Well, they stopped answering my phone calls. I wasn't quite sure where to send that document, if I was to send it to the resort or send it back to him. But yeah, I haven't been able to get a hold of that attorney.
Yeah, that's inexcusable. And I'd like to just share with one of the people that worked at Diamond Resorts. I received, there was a Navy veteran in 2017. She resolved a dispute that was a sizable loan. And in 2020, during COVID, I received an email from an insider that said several of these people have been hired back that were on a no hire list. And I thought, oh no, I saw the name of Ray's sales agent and at Nantucket, and I thought, oh no, now he's here. And then the next day, I got an email from that same veteran who said, I just bought 30,000 diamond points because I was told that when Hilton buys diamond, I'll get a big equity check. This is true, right? And I went, oh my gosh, fool me twice. So she was in the rescind period, but he was the one that was a person of interest in counterfeit coins in Oklahoma, also DWI. And she was supposed to have a conference call, and that conference call got canceled, but he did have a fatal car accident. And so he is deceased. He had someone I know in Branson said it would have been his third DWI. So we have someone that was charged and pled guilty for theft and robbery. We have someone stealing motor fuel. We have the other charges. And so you need to know who you're doing business with. And again, these were obtained through public record search. So now getting back to Alan, we said this was all really caused by the last purchase of $48,000 that was also transferred to credit cards. So did you go back to Diamond Resorts to ask them about that purchase and the fact that now you're $13,500 in arrears?
No, I don't understand the question, I guess.
Did you go back to Diamond Resorts? Because the purchase before Nantucket was the one that really drove you to want to be released because you spent more money on points to be able, because they said if you didn't buy into Hilton Grand Vacations, your maintenance fees would skyrocket.
Yeah. Our choices for where to vacation would go down because as the resorts got converted over to Hilton, we wouldn't have access to them if it was Diamond.
And that is not true because the CEO of Hilton, Mark Wang, said in a press release that what you have with Diamond will remain. I have personally stayed in 2 Diamond resorts that have been rebranded Hilton. So in the beginning, when I became involved, if you had a deed, you were told you have to give up your deed and convert to points, or you'll be the last person standing, owning deeds. Well, now it's just tweaked. If you don't, and there's nothing wrong with buying into the Hilton HGV Max program. It's the right thing to do for the right family, because if you are a Diamond member, you have to buy a minimal purchase of points to be able to have access to HGV Max. HGV Max is a program, not a product. But from what your Sharon's daughter said, is that they really the Diamond will you'd still be eligible for their exit program, which costs $1,000 per contract, and they would waive some of those fees. But that would mean after really losing $80,000 going out the window, you're going to pay them to take it back. And something seems wrong with that picture. So your family got together, and I heard from Sharon's daughter, I believe the answer to that is no.
Yeah, that's the consensus so far.
Yeah. So, and then you had 67,500 Diamond points, and at an average price of $4 per point, that means that you have spent over the last 20 years about $270,000. Now, during those 20 years, I know you didn't know Sharon all those years. She had some of those before she met you. Did you utilize the points very much? Where did you travel with those points?
We vacationed in Arizona, and then they would trade some on interval and vacation there. There's a place in Texas they like to go down fishing in the wintertime. And we took a lot of vacations, but it was still hard to utilize them all. And that was another reason that we wanted to, that we've got so many points, the maintenance fees are too high, and we got more points than we need. And every time you go to an update meeting and you complain about it, it says, well, the people that sold you this before did it wrong, and they told you wrong, and the only way we can fix this is sell you more points.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. And Daniel, with Kimberly with us, because I'm not as an expert on these kind of things, the snare that you've run into is you had a deed, and Kimberly is fascinated by deeds. And what was the paperwork that you were supposed to send back to Nantucket, and what was that about?
It's my understanding was the release of the deed, to release myself from this contract. I sent you a digital copy of it on your email.
Okay. So, but they wanted you to send a copy of the deed in order for them to release you from it. Is that how that worked?
No, it was just a document that they wrote up that was releasing me of it, and I had to have it signed and notarized. That was the final step from what I understood that I had to do to get timeshare.
And did you sent it to them and it came back? Did you send it to Nantucket? Oh, he's muted again. Well, we'll catch up.
He's not muted. He's not muted.
Okay.
Don't touch it. Just give it a second to sync up. Oh dear.
Oh well.
And
Anyway,
it's sometimes your receptions are challenging.
he's in a car.
Interesting story because it's like he said he spent probably more money on exit companies and attorneys if you go out and look at their prices than he has getting anything resolved or even the timeshare itself. Here we go.
There we are. Can we hear you now, Daniel? Okay. So
Yeah.
you sent it to Nantucket. What happened?
I got it returned back to me. I guess that address didn't exist.
Oh boy.
It was on the deed, or not on the deed, but on that document that the law firm gave me to have signed and notarized. I sent it to that address, and it got returned back to me.
And did you try to call them?
The attorney?
No, the Nantucket.
No, I haven't tried to call them.
Okay, well, that might be, and now it's been so long that it'd be kind of like, do you want to poke the bear? Because eventually these companies will want someone to be paying the maintenance fees since you're not paying those maintenance fees.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's so helpful to help our goal to educate and increase awareness. I'm really grateful that you dropped in on us, and Frank and Alan, and for all three of you to get to know each other. And we'll be following the outcomes as we go forward. We sent the link to Taya, Active Duty Army, to Wyndham 2 weeks ago. And we sent it to Wyndham Media. We sent it to a department called Wyndham Cares. And we sent it to Legal Docs. And we did not hear back. And Taya, as she said, has sent 74 emails since September. So our next step is there is in the appellate court in Atlanta on April 18th, there is a oral arguments on Steins versus Westgate. And there's a Fort Stewart in Georgia. We're going to send a report of 12 active duty service members that found their security clearances in jeopardy, hoping, when they see this is going on, they'll send someone to attend those oral arguments as well. So, Kimberly, I just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. The responses I got over the last 2 weeks, we're scheduled out with guests now for 10 weeks. And it's been 4 of them are from the industry, and 6 of them are people like Daniel and Alan and Frank. So we really appreciate it. Now you're muted.
Yeah, there we go. I want to thank Daniel and Alan and Frank too for having the courage to step up and talk about this, because the more we're educated about what's going on, hopefully the more solutions we can help with people, but also become preventive. And I always want to tell everyone, and especially if you two are continuing conversations with these people, go get yourself one of these. And you know what? Don't even disclose to them that you're recording them. Don't worry about taking it to court. Just use it against them when you talk to them. They go, well, that's not what we said. Well, yeah, that is what you said. Because they're allowed to record the closing, which to me is entrapping the buyer when they could have, recorded the whole sales, which, as we have been witnessing, is where the deceptive acts occur. But, Daniel, I feel your pain because I have gone out and researched how much the exit companies cost and some of the exit attorneys. And you're right. Some of those attorneys don't do anything at all. Not all of them are like that. Please please don't think they're all like that, but let's get informed and and it doesn't hurt to make a list even on your own social media of people or send it to us and say, watch out for this person. We can become the Better Business Bureau for some of these things, but we need to unite and work on this problem. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. Unfortunately, our time is up. Don't forget to watch us on Roku and Amazon, also on podtv.tv, where you can catch this VOD and all her other great shows. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pod TV.